Let me do my YouTube intro. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here or you haven't been keeping up with my series or my book club, we are reading The Matriarch by Miss Tina Knowles. My book is Busted and Disgusted because I have been dragging this book every time I've been on a plane, every time I've had to travel, every time I've had to do something in like the last few months, couple weeks. Sorry, my headphones are bugging. That book comes with me. So I'm back. We're going to try and get through like 10 chapters today. As y'all know, I have the TikTok live going, so it is going to be somewhat interactive. And right now we're starting on chapter 34. We are in May of 2000, and this chapter is called Tina is the Problem. Okay. Now, just to give everyone a refresher, the reason that they think Tina is the problem, we're at the point where Destiny's Child is reaching its pinnacle, is reaching its peak. They are becoming known for their fashions that some might call too country, ghetto fabulous, too much. And that is like literally the first thing I wrote down. And that means that Miss Tina said that in the books, that their outfits were too ghetto and their hair was too much. Now, Miss Tina, if you aren't aware, was in a singing group when she was in high school. Her mother is a master seamstress. She herself is a master seamstress. Her older sister is a master seamstress. And then her nephew, who was her older sister Selena's son, Johnny, is also a master seamstress. So the master seamstress sister is Uncle Johnny's mom, Selena, and Uncle Johnny was also a master seamstress. This family sews down. Like, they make costumes for real. And Miss Tina said part of the reason that Destiny's Child's costumes was always on 10, if you look back at the pictures, you'll notice they're bright colors. They have sequins. They are very like eye-catching, is because she always felt like she wanted people who was not in the front of the stadium, people who was sitting all the way in the back, to be able to see them. So that was very much by design. The higher ups at, I believe at this point in time, they was at Columbia. If I'm not, hold on. They might have been at Columbia at this point in time, if I'm not mistaken. But the higher ups kept comparing them to the Supremes and Motown like that was an insult. And Miss Tina makes a joke in here with her and Matthew talking about like, these are black girls and you're trying to compare them to the Supremes and Motown as if it is an insult. It's not going to land. Like, yeah, we're black. Like, that's a compliment to me. And I just think about that constantly, especially when we think about Beyoncé and who she is. Reading this book, I've just very much learned that Beyoncé is the way she is because her parents were like incredibly pro-black. Like, they was never trying to make Destiny's Child mainstream. Throughout this whole chapter, we learn about how the record label wants Beyonce and Destiny's Child to be more like Jessica Simpson, to be more like Britney Spears. And they was like, I am not Jessica Simpson. I am not Britney Spears. They didn't want Beyonce to give black girl. And Miss Tina was like, but she's a black girl. So it was always like that push and pull. Matthew goes off. So this chapter, we learn the legend of Matthew Knowles. Now, if you've been keeping up, we know that Miss Tina loved Hurston Matthew down. A lot of her bond with Matthew comes from the fact that she has her own childhood trauma where she feels like her mother and her family, she wasn't protected. And so she puts up with Matthew's shit for 30 plus years because one thing Matthew did do was protect Tina. He protected their daughters. He protected Kelly, who is like their adopted daughter. And she gives a lot of examples of Matthew showing up in ways that she needed and really protecting and championing for her and, advocating for her and the girls. He just really couldn't keep his dick in his pants, which was quite unfortunate. So Matthew Knowles when he was Beyonce and Destiny's Child manager, we always know he was fucking crazy. He had that reputation. This is part of where he gets it on. Destiny's Child going crazy at Columbia, and they basically tried to fire Miss Tina. And Matthew went in there and like made a whole display and was like flicking the lights on and off and said, Destiny's Child keeps the lights on in here, as he's flicking the lights on and off. And so he got the reputation of being like basically Beyonce crazy ass daddy. Like, you don't want to have to deal with Beyonce crazy ass daddy because he gonna give you an earful. And the ironic thing here is, even though they was trying to make Beyonce and the rest of Destiny's Child girls like Jessica Simpson, like Britney Spears, both Jessica Simpson and Britney Spears had told Miss Tina that they liked her outfits and that they eventually wanted her to style them. So I thought that was funny. So for their music video, what music video was it for? Oh, Independent Woman, which, by the way, Beyonce wrote that song, and that was something that Matthew really hammered into Beyonce. You need to learn how to write your music, and you need to go on tour, because that is how artists make their money. And so Beyonce wrote Independent Woman, which, as we know, was in Charlie's Angels, which is a big deal because this is not the first movie Destiny's Child song was in. They was in the Men in Black, but this was like the first really big soundtrack that they would be having, like their song is like the lead song, because we know Lucy Liu with my girl Drew, Cameron D, and Destiny at Charlie's Angels. Come, like it was a big deal. So the music video needed to be styled correctly. They tried to bring in Pat Field, who is famous for styling Sex in the City, and Miss Tina and Matthew saw right through what was happening, because Miss Tina was basically like, "Oh my God, that's Pat Field, girl, let her style." Now, something that Matthew also hammered into the girls was a level of loyalty and integrity to each other and their team. So even when Pat Fields was brought in, the girls of Destiny's Child was like, no, we want Miss Tina to to style us still, like this is our team. And I think that is also something that you see that reflected in how Beyonce even moves today. When stuff is going left with Rock Nation, you never see her switch up, or you never see people change ranks. This comes from Matthew basically being like, we're the black people here. They're going to try and pull us apart. They're going to try and decide who's a star and da-da-da. Beyonce, they tried to make Beyonce got opportunities before this, but they were just really big on sticking together and sticking to the team. And I oftentimes think, like, and Miss Tina references this, people always was like, oh, Beyonce was always meant to be the star. I think Beyonce naturally was just the star, but her parents were really big on, like, we're a group. So it's Beyonce not just finna show up by herself. Like, Beyonce is always going to show up with the group, and she talks about that. So at the end of this chapter, basically Destiny's Child is honored at the VH1 Vogue Fashion Awards in 2000, I believe. And Destiny's Child made a point, like, they had become known for their costumes on the red carpet in terms of how they were always like cohesive and uniform, but always like a different vibe for each girl. And so VH1 and Vogue honored them, and they made a point to bring Miss Tina on stage because Miss Tina had not only designed but like made and sewn all these costumes together. And so she talks about how after that awards, basically after how Vogue recognized her as a real designer, the record label Columbia left her alone. At the end of this chapter, she takes Kelly, Michelle, and Beyonce to her hometown of Galveston because around 2000, 2001 is really when they start taking off and becoming like iconic, but it was important for, her to keep the girls grounded. And they had like a special moment in Galveston. If you know anything about Galveston, Texas, it's a beach town. They were on the water, it's very woo-woo and vibes. So now we're on chapter 35. This one is called 21st Century Women, and it takes place in summer of 2000. It's not really long because I feel like some of these chapters are long because she wants to make several points, and then some of them are shorter because the chapter only has one point. The first point of this chapter is that Solange in summer 2000 is about 14 years old. She has been following her sister around for basically her entire life. And she decides that she also wants a record deal and she wants to make music. Now, what Miss Tina says from rip, is that Solange is smart. Solange reminds me a lot of my brother in the way of, like, I was a sibling who had to try in school. I got good grades, but I had to try. I had to study. My brother was very smart. My brother would get good grades and he would not try. He would not apply himself, and somehow he would still like get a B. Like, so imagine if you studied, you would be like a perfect score. But that wasn't his judge. That wasn't his vibe. They have even started setting aside money for Solange to go to college, because at this point, it's kind of probably clear that's not Beyonce's path. Beyonce, basically got famous when she started getting famous when she was 15, 16. And now at this point in 2000, she is 19. So they're like, yeah, Beyonce is probably not going to go to college, but we're going to put some money aside for Solange, the baby girl. And Miss Tina is really big into not pushing things on her daughters. She wants to go with the flow of their feelings because she felt like her mom pushed a lot on her, and that's not what she wanted. But she talks openly about how she wanted Solange to go to college because she thought Solange was so smart. And so since Solange was the youngest and the baby and used to like being, oh, I'm going to do it, oh, I'm not, oh, I'm going to do it, oh, I'm not, Matthew and Tina come to an agreement that they'll invest money in Solange's record deal if she spends the summer being a backup dancer for Destiny's Child. Now, not only does Solange kill it as a backup dancer, but Kelly happens to get hurt during like this summer tour that they're on, and she actually can't do her own dance moves. So Miss Tina ended up like, when Destiny's Child was performing, Kelly was like sitting in a stool, and Solange came up in the same costume as Kelly and did Kelly's routine up front with Beyonce and Michelle, while Kelly was sitting there still singing. I feel like I remember this. If anyone else I feel like I remember Kelly not having use of one leg. If anyone in the chat remembers, please let me know, because I feel like I saw that. Also, in the summer of 2000, the Destiny's Child Barbies drop, which, okay, I knew I wasn't tripping. I definitely remember watching something with Kelly sitting on a bench, but I never really put together that was Solange dancing in her place. The Destiny's Child Barbies drop in summer of 2000, and Miss Tina is heavily involved with obviously designing. She talks about how they were getting black girls wrong in the costumes and blase blase. In summer of 2000, this is going to be a pivotal moment. It's kind of like Miss Tina's an icon, but like she casually be being an icon. So in 2001, Annie Leibovitz, if you know anything about Annie Leibovitz, first of all, she's a photographer, and she's controversial in terms of the way that she shoots black people. Okay, that's already a thing about Annie Leibovitz. And it's apparently been like that since 2001. Because in 2001, Vanity Fair does a music shoot with, and they invite all these artists. Among the artists, you have Beyonce, you have Maxwell, you have Jay-Z. Two things happen during this Vanity Fair shoot. Miss Tina does Beyonce's hair. It's out and it's big. And also it's a group shoot. So I think she said David Bowie was there. Just think it was a bunch of iconic people. And I remember this. I remember this shoot. I can't remember exactly who was there, but it was like one of those group spreads. So Beyonce's doing her hair. It's all big. She looking fly, sexy, hot, thick, all the things. These assistants keep coming and saying Annie wants her to put her hair in a bun. And Miss Tina and Beyonce kept being like, no. So this happens like 3 or 4 times. Finally, it gets back to Annie herself. And Annie comes over like, can you just put your hair in a bun? And they're like, no. And Miss Tina kind of looks around, and she talks about how being in these spaces, when they didn't know how to do a black model's hair or didn't know how to make the black model's hair vibe, they just will always put it in a bun because it was the easiest thing to do. So this is an example of Miss Tina advocating for Beyonce because she kind of knew what was happening already. They knew y'all just want to throw her hair back in the bun because you don't know what to do with it. We done already did it. Stop it. So now it's a setup. She sees a young man who is sitting down she says the hat is ugly and he looks pissed off. That young man happens to be Maxwell. She doesn't even realize it's Maxwell until he looks up and she's like, what's wrong? And he's like, they're making me wear this stupid hat. Like, he literally says, they're making me wear this stupid hat. Now, mind you, if you know anything about Maxwell in the late 90s, early 2000s, his hair looked like mine. And Maxwell was known for his big afro. So to put a hat on Maxwell and his signature afro, he's known for being fine and sexy and having a big fro. And you're going to put a fucking ugly hat on it. It's like, Annie Leibovitz, you will pay for your crimes. Basically, Miss Tina takes the hat off, throws it and was like, don't let them make you cover up your crown. She does the black mama thing. She gives them a whole speech. And I'm just like, this lady is so black mama coded. And she talks about how like Beyonce was kind of like, oh my God, mama, you so embarrassing. But can you imagine your mom basically like talking to the only black person there and like, don't let them make you take your crown off. Da da da. I'm like, oh my God, that is, I can imagine. But anyway, she doesn't go into much detail, but she does mention that this is a shoot where Beyonce meets Jay-Z. Okay, last thing in this chapter is Solange and Miss Tina want to go to the Galleria here in Houston, and Beyonce wants to come. Now, they weren't going to invite Beyonce, and I think they said Kelly and Michelle was both busy, and it was kind of like, Maxwell is like family to Tina now too. Yes. She says her and Maxwell are close in the book too. But Beyonce wants to come. They don't want to be like, no, you can't come. But what has started happening is at the point where Beyonce causes a scene wherever she goes. They go into the Versace store, and basically within 20 minutes of being at the Versace store, they're being hounded. The employees have to let them out of the back, at the back of the entrance that leads to the back of the mall. And basically they have to drive out the back of the Galleria. This is the point in which they realize their lives have truly changed. I think, like she mentions casually getting, my mic is connected to my camera. My mic's not connected. The sound is different. Yeah, no, my mic's not connected to y'all. My mic is connected to the YouTube. My bad. This is the point where she realizes that their lives are changed. She talks about casually like being recognized. Sir, no, you can't come into the live. Casually being recognized in Houston, but being mobbed at the Galleria for the first time, like they're like, oh yeah, this is the point of no return. So yeah, that's how that chapter ends. Now we're on chapter 36, Eyes Lifted to the Mountains. This happens in spring of 2003, and this is the point at which Destiny's Child goes on hiatus. We've lost him. We've lost him. And again, Miss Tina touches on how people claim they only wanted Beyonce to be successful, but they purposely did the rollout layered so that all the girls would be able to have their success. So first, Michelle drops at the top of the year. Michelle has the best-selling gospel album of 2002. Then when the summer hits, Kelly, as we know, drops Dilemma with Nelly. It's the #1 record in the UK. And it's the #1 record worldwide. And then when Kelly drops her album, she has the #1 album in the UK. And I think that, we don't be giving Kelly her flowers the way we should all the time. Kelly got a track record too. And because of the success that Kelly was experiencing with Dilemma, this caused Beyonce to push back her debut album, Dangerously in Love, because they didn't want to take away from the shine. Like this was intentional. They wanted each of the girls to get their moments. And so it ended up being pushed back. Her record label told her, and this is a part of iconic Hive lore. If you're part of Hive, you know this. They told her Dangerously in Love was trash. Something's off with my mic. Let me see if it's like this. Hold on, y'all. Can y'all hear me now? Is it good? Sorry to the YouTube. Okay, better. Okay, I think it might have sounded like that because I had my phone plugged in the charger. So, back to what I was saying. Iconic Hive lore, we know that the people at the record label told them that there were no hits on Dangerously in Love, that she needed to go back to the drawing board. And they told her the album was a flop. They specifically told her that Crazy in Love was a flop, which, you just gotta laugh at that. So as we know, Beyonce is very soft-spoken, and we start to, in these chapters, see her become a woman, start standing up for herself, and she's dating Jay-Z at this time. Now, the thing is, we find out Miss Tina's so not messy. Like, Miss Tina drops just enough breadcrumbs for us to, like, be like, oh my God, who she is talking about. When Beyonce met Jay-Z, Beyonce was friends, talking on the phone. You know, our girl was real busy. She was focused with two men. Miss Tina mentions the other one was also in the industry, and she basically asked her, like, which one should I pick? And Miss Tina was like, I mean, which one do you like talking to more? And like, you know, just offhandedly and very quickly, Beyonce said Jay. And so she talks about like how those little sprouts of love, like how you just kind of got to follow your gut. Like that first, you didn't really think about that answer. You just said, I think I like talking to Jay more. I swear I want to know who the other person is. On Twitter, they were saying it was Mos Def. I don't know if I believe that. But it would make sense in terms of the timing of Carmen, the hip opera. It was Cisco. She picked the right one if it was Cisco. Usher. If it was Cisco, then we made the right decision, Beyonce. You know, I'm just saying. And so she calls Jay. She calls Hermione. Okay. She calls Hermione and she said, oh my God, they would never treat Jay like this. Did I skip over the fact where Jay and the family was getting to meet? Oh, I'm sorry. In the last chapter, I had skipped over this. Her and Jay started getting serious. I thought it was in this chapter. And relatively quickly, Beyonce met Miss Gloria and Jay's sisters. They came over for dinner. That, you know, like, Beyonce, how do I say this without sounding like elitist? But I do think that Beyonce actually coming, I don't think this is elitist. Let me take that back. Beyonce came from an actual family unit. Like her parents, even in the early days of Girls' Time, when Girls' Time was the dolls, Tina and Matthew were present parents in terms of there wasn't finna be no bullshit going on. Like my mama and daddy are in my life. They're going to like be in my life. And so when we think about Jay-Z and when people are like, oh, Jay-Z used to be a player, I don't think, especially at this point where Matthew was still Beyonce's manager, even the way Miss Tina describes these situations, it honestly would have been damn near impossible to play her. I say this because they were always working. They were always on tour. Her parents are always in the room. Like, her parents are always, even when Beyonce and the girls go and do stuff, the parents are over here. Like, they're still very present figures. And I know it's like that for a lot of people. And I know, you know, the whole thing, hood niggas can get whoever. But I just think it would have been much harder for Jay not to come correct. And I think that he obviously recognized that very early on because, you know, closely after they met, he introduced Beyonce to his mother and his sisters. And then they were doing like family dinners on, like, they were doing family dinners in, what year was this? 2001. They were doing family dinners with the Carters and the Knowles. So I'm just saying, like, I think Jay courted Beyonce correct. That's what I'm trying to say. I thought it was Marquise Houston. Oh, bitch, it might have been Marquise. Girl, it wasn't no damn Nelly. Marquise Houston would be more Justin Timberlake. Girl, please. Girl, bye. Okay, anyway, let me get back to this. So, yeah, Beyonce say, I'm finna call my man. She literally says they would never talk to Jay like this. I'm finna call my man. I have to get him on Crazy in Love. Can you imagine not having to even, like, I'm finna call my boyfriend. Like, that's so T. I'm sorry. The record label playing, we're finna call my boyfriend. Get on this song. And what Jay do? Got on that motherfucking song. Yeah. Get on that song, nigga. Get on that song. Yeah, what the fuck? I knew I had a hit. And so now, as we know, like that Beyonce likes to brag. If you've ever seen that clip, I forgot what concert that was, where she's like, they told me I didn't have one hit on this album. I guess they were right. I had 5. Like, they told her the album was a flop. Okay, so it gets kind of sad for Solange in this chapter. And we come to understand a lot of the choices that Solange was making at the time. In this 2003, Solange is 17 years old. And as we know, Solange likes to stay home in Houston. She doesn't like to travel around too much. She likes to have a bit of normalcy. And she becomes, two things happen during this point. She meets a boy named Daniel. You guys recognize that name, Daniel? What's Daniel's last name? Oh, what's Jules' damn last name? I can't think of Jules' damn last name. What's his daddy last name? Jules Taylor? Smith, my bad. Smith. She meets a boy named Daniel Smith, who is her age. And she's obviously getting to know this new boy named Daniel Smith, who's a football player in Houston. Very good, very well known, very fine. She didn't say that. I seen pictures of Daniel back in the day. I went through a phase when I used to like the light skins. Daniel was something I could have got into. I ain't gonna hold you. He was cute. So I feel you. So like, that nigga was cute, girl. That nigga was fine, girl. What the fuck? So she also has a best friend named Marseille Murray. And Solange and Marseille are like this. And a lot of time when Miss Tina and Beyoncé and Matthew are traveling, Solange is kicking it with Marseille. Now, the way that this happens is really, really sad because, especially here in Texas, football is king. Like even the Sugarland Stadium for the high school game that they're talking about, I've gone to a high school game at that stadium, in the time I've been living in Texas. So it's like that. Whenever she mentioned the spots, I'd be like, oh my God, I'd be over there. And Friday night football with the high schools is such a thing. Even as I've been there because I was dating a football coach. I ain't trying to give y'all too much of my tea. But I was deals with a little football coach out here in the city, And one thing that the boys who coach football, you will quickly realize in a state like Texas, Friday Night Lights is very real. It be grown ass motherfuckers pulling up to the game like it's the motherfucking club. I ain't gonna hold you. I used to like it just because I'm cute. So it's like, yeah, I'm finna go in here. Me and Sabrina would be up at the games, and you put a little extra something in your Stanley, girl, and you get you one of them little seats so you ain't gotta sit your butt on the bleacher for real. Sit there, look cute. Coach, he over there on the sideline. He turn around, check you. He throw the deuce up to you so everybody know that's who you there for. Yeah, I'm here for the coach. And it's cool. It's a vibe. Cheerleaders over here doing their thing, boys over there, high schoolers. And then it's also Sabrina and I used to like going to the games because it made us reminisce about when we was in high school. Because one thing about me and Sabrina, girl, we used to be at them football games, and I used to love an away game. That's how I was going to make new friends from the other high schools, girl. I used to love an away game. You go to the snack bar in the middle that is connecting the adjoining sides. Go get you one of the niggas over there. Yeah, what the boys over here at this school looking like, girl? What the fuck? What the boys over here looking like? And when I be watching the girls do that, I be like, oh my God, the kids is all right. They just want to be seen at the football game. So anyway, that's Marseille and Solange T. But one day, one football game that happens in Sugarland, Solange is not able to go with Marseille because Daniel's godfather had asked Solange to take Daniel's god sister, his daughter, to a Rockets game. So Solange was obviously trying to get cool in with the nigga. So, his goddaddy just asked me to take a little girl to the game. Yeah, Solange, I feel you. Yeah, I'm finna take her to the game. She takes the little girl to the game. Marseille still goes to the game she takes the little girl to the Rockets game. Marseille still goes to the football game with their friends. Ends up being killed by a stray bullet. They were shooting in the parking lot. Altercation, someone shot at a man, and Marseille was hit as they were walking by. She unfortunately does not survive, and that kind of alters Solange's life. Solange literally breaks down crying, screaming at the Rockets game because they call and tell her why she's still at the game. Why would y'all do that? But you know what I'm saying. And so Miss Tina rushes home, and from here we kind of see Solange's rush to grow up because there is this feeling. Now you have to think up. I don't want to say Beyonce is detached, but the people who have been lost in the life, in the story of their life so far, have been people close to Solange. I'm not saying Beyonce wasn't close to Uncle Johnny, but by Solange being younger and Beyonce and them always traveling, Solange was with Uncle Johnny solo a lot more than Beyonce. Solange's therapist was also a gay black man who passed away from AIDS. And so that really affected her. And then now she has her literal best friend, you know, like their junior, senior year of high school, like tragically unalived as well. It's just like, it's a lot for a 17-year-old. And we're going to see that, how she processes that in like the decisions that she makes. So that Thanksgiving, Bono calls Miss Tina. Miss Tina wants to do a big Thanksgiving in Houston because Solange is like processing. She doesn't want her to go anywhere. She wants the family together. Bono calls and says, we literally need Destiny's Child to perform at our AIDS benefit in Cape Town, South Africa. And at first, Miss Tina's like, no. And Bono literally has the unmitigated gall to be like, Tina, I'm a white guy. Every other act has dropped out because of Thanksgiving. Think of what this could do for your people. And I'm like, yo, yeah, Miss Tina, I agree. Why the fuck is a white man telling you what to do for your people? But she, much like me, is like, well, I can't let a white guy tell me what the fuck to do. What a, like, fucking Bono. Like, what the fuck? So she runs it past everybody. Everyone wants to go. It's a great vibe. Beyonce has actually asked to perform twice. So Destiny Child performed, and then Beyonce is asked to sing solo for Nelson Mandela. That's insane. Can you imagine? Can you sing for Nelson Mandela? I mean, fuck yeah. And then they visit a orphanage of children who have AIDS and or are orphans whose parents have died of AIDS. And so there's a girl there. She's 10 years old. This lady who runs the orphanage tells Miss Tina and Solange and Beyonce this young girl has tried to unalive herself because she herself has AIDS and her entire family has died of AIDS. And she's the only one to survive and she's not fucking with it. And so Solange, at some point, they end up going over there. They bond, they talk. And she talks about how this moment of like, so it was the first time she basically seen Solange smile, and the little girl wasn't smiling when they got there, and the little girl was smiling. So it was like a touching moment. Solange is so funny because they're on their way to the Grammys, where this is the Grammys where Beyonce and Prince perform. If anyone, those Grammys. And in the car on the way to the Grammys. Oh, did I miss something? I had wanted to say this. Tell her. Okay. What I forgot to write down in this chapter. This is also the point in time where Solange is in Johnson Family Vacation. Johnson Family Vacation came out around this time, and Solange killed it. Solange not only did so well, if you remember, Cedric the Entertainer plays her dad. Cedric the Entertainer wanted to create a show around Solange. And this is before Marseille is unalived. He thought she did such a stellar performance, her comedic acting. He was creating a show. He wanted Solange to star in the show. But as we know with TV, things move really slow in TV. I don't know if you guys know that. So that someone can be like, oh, I'm creating a show around you. It doesn't happen for 2 fucking years, right? Marseille passes away. Marseille is unalived. And in the interim of that, Solange decides, don't feel like doing that anymore. They're on their way to the Grammys. This Grammy performance with Prince and Beyonce perform. Solange says, Mom, I don't want to do music. I don't want to do the TV show. I'm pregnant. And I'm keeping it. And I know I don't have a long time to live. I just got to get on with my life because I don't know how long I have. And don't try and talk me out of it. And then she says, in addition to that, I'm getting married. And you can't talk me out of it. And yeah. And I think Solange has shown signs in this book, obviously Miss Tina, this is her daughter, of being such a strong-willed child. Miss Tina didn't want to like push her away because she recognized that all this was happening so closely after a very traumatic event for Solange. And so Miss Tina wanted to handle it with care. That point where, have you ever heard the tweet where Solange is like, fuck you, fuck Angie, fuck my mama, That came from, they knew they weren't going to be able to talk Solange out of the marriage. So they called Daniel and tried to talk Daniel out the marriage and be like, y'all are too young, because they had got to the point where they were okay. Now we have to remember, they're very religious people. Miss Tina's very religious. They were okay with her keeping the baby. They did not want her to get married. They didn't want her. I mean, she was 17. They didn't want her to get married at all. And so they tried to basically get to Daniel and be like, y'all, let's just have the baby. You ain't got to get married, you know? And I think, obviously, that upset Solange. This was some good lore. The island Solange got married on was owned by John Travolta. Like, that was, I love when new lore drops. Like, that's good lore. And we learn that they move out of their house because Tina, and at this point, they're living in Swan Island. They're not living at Parkwood or in Braeswood no more. They're at Swan Island, which is another ritzy area. It's a very rich area in Houston, but people kept coming in. I don't think it was gated. I'm not sure if it was gated. They didn't describe it as being gated. And if you've ever, or Swan Isle, those houses are huge, but not all of them are gated, I don't think. Miss Tina said, yeah, we got to move somewhere with some gates, because one time, a mentally ill man came to the front asking for Beyoncé and saying he was there to marry her. Angie ends up calling the police. And the time that really makes them move away from that house is she's in the house alone. She opens the door to go out in the backyard for something. And she said there was a big-ass white man. That's literally what she said. She said there was a big-ass white man laying on one of, like, their lawn chairs. And talking, she was like, what are you doing here? And he, like, was so calm, like, I'm looking for Beyoncé. And she went inside, closed that door so quick. Girl. Can you imagine a big-ass white man simply just in your backyard, like, I'm looking for Beyoncé? No, the fuck you're not. Go home. Go home. So, she decides, after that, she said, bitch, I'm getting the fuck out of here, right? And her and Matthew are, now, as we know, Miss Tina and Matthew are back and forth. They never actually get divorced until they get divorced. And she can never actually stay gone from the N-word for over 6 months. The longest time she left him was for 6 months when the girls was going into high school and she moved into that apartment in River Oaks. But they're on a downtime, and she decides she's gonna buy a big ass house because she has in mind that Daniel and the future little baby Jules and Solange can come live with her in the house. When Beyonce, Kelly, Michelle are at home, they can come live her in the house. If her and Matthew get back, there's room in the house. But she gonna buy this house for herself. This is her house, and the next time her and Beyonce get back together, her and Matthew get back together, she made him sign some paperwork basically saying, like, my house is my house and your house is your house. Sorry, where the hell am I want to go? Oh, mine is mine and yours is yours. Like, it is what it is. Bitch, your mama need to go, okay? Now we're on chapter 37. This chapter takes place in July of 2004, and it's called Joy and Pain. Again, this chapter is shorter, but this chapter is to show two different things. Matthew being a protector and an advocate for Tina once again, and kind of to see where Solange and Daniel go. So something that they're known for is Miss Tina likes to cook Sunday dinner. She says that even to this point in time, that's something that happens. And this particular Sunday, she is frying fish. Now, Solange calls her all the way from her house in California, and she's like, Mama, how do I cook chicken? Miss Tina's trying to tell her how to cook chicken, and she tells her to put everything in a bag, and like the celery and the onions and the chicken, and then you cook it together. Miss Tina just simply says, put it in the bag, right? Solange, oh, dumbass, puts it in the bag and then in the oven. She didn't put it on the pan. So she calls Miss Tina back. She basically screaming at Miss Tina like, Mama, why you ain't put in no damn pan? Da, 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 da. Like, Solange going off on Miss Tina. Miss Tina thinks it's so funny that Solange, like, and it is. It really is. Why would you, like, not, like, why? Like, right. Miss Tina laughing. And in the midst of Solange like going off on her, and she laughing so hard, she says she drops the phone. It hits the she's frying fish. It hits the arm of the pan, and the grease that is frying this fish splashes all down her leg. She says she's wearing like some jeggings, and like if you know anything about hot grease and a lot of it, bitch, Miss Tina got some 3rd-degree burns to the point where she said when they came and the ambulance was trying to take the pants off of her, like her muscle was literally coming off with the pants. Like I was like, oh, like reading that part made me clench my anus. No exaggeration. Like I was like, oh. Now, Matthew, dramatic ass, whispering in her ear, talking about, I wish it was me. I wish it was me. Can you imagine your leg is finna fall off and your motherfucking N-word who ain't shit half the time talking about, I wish it was me. Get the fuck away from me. The white police officer thinks that Matthew threw the grease because these are black people. The white police officer thinks Matthew threw the grease on her. It's a domestic dispute. And she's like, no, I was literally laughing and the grease fell on me. So the part about Matthew showing up for her again and being an advocate, she talks about how Matthew is an advocate for her in the hospital. If you've ever been in the hospital, if you've ever had to have a long hospital stay, you know that one thing you got to do with them doctors is advocate for yourself. And I think she had to get skin grafting. Like her burns were actually so intense that they had to like redo her shit. They had to take skin off of her other upper thigh and replace it. And so she basically says how Matthew was showing up, advocating. It was so painful, but it was very important for her to make it to Solange's baby shower because as we know, her mom died right before she found out she was pregnant with Beyoncé. And she has always just thought about how her parents never got to see Beyoncé or Solange. And that's just something that always stuck with her. And so they make it happen. They fly private because her leg has to stay, like she has to stay extended because the skin can't bend. And at the end of this, we learn that the Soldier music video where Solange is big as a house, pregnant with Jules, was actually shot on Solange's original due date. But the doctors were like, we don't think he's going to come on the due date. So, just chill. And so they even scheduled the music video around Solange's house and around the area of the hospital so that if she did end up going into labor, they could just get her there really quickly. Daniel gets signed to a college in Idaho on a football scholarship. And Solange is like, yeah, mama, we kind of like living with you in this big, nice house, but I'm going to go with my man to college. Because one thing about it, Solange said, I ain't going to let my man just go. You feel me? So now we're on chapter 38. This is called Contemporary American Landscapes. This is happening in January of 2005. So Solange is married. She's 19 years old and she has a newborn baby. She's living in Moscow, Idaho, which is very different from LA, very different from Houston, very different from New York, all the places that the Knowles have lived in the last decade. And she talks about how the biggest attractions in this little town are Walmart and this ice cream shop. Is my shit finna die? I knew it was finna die. All right, YouTube.